my name is Sheri Wilson, and I am the author of a collection of short stories called Women, Trapped and Free. Today I am going to read an excerpt from one of my chapters called Holiday Girl. Scotch, please, Janie Holliday requested automatically, even though she couldn't hear what the flight attendant was asking above the jazz music drifting from her iPod. When the scotch was handed to her, Janie took a sip and leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes as each movement of the plane brought her closer to what had become her favorite city, her personal Sin City. Her reasons for flying to Los Angeles once a month were less than honorable, but she felt no shame. Shame had disappeared long ago, replaced with an intense need to enjoy life in the moment, to experience the pleasures that awaited her, to leave no stone unturned in her quest for personal fulfillment. It would have been convenient for her to use her lousy husband and troubled teenage sons as an excuse for the extramarital affair that she was having, but no such excuse existed. Her husband Peter was quiet, gainfully employed, and tried his best to be emotionally available. Her sons were straight-A students with impeccable manners. The urge for unbridled passion and excitement had begun in her early 40s, and in her late 40s showed no signs of stopping. It was a clear and sunny June morning in Los Angeles. As Samuel Somerville lounged in bed with his pets, Grover and Kit Kat, sleeping nearby, he vaguely remembered that Janie Holliday was coming to town today. He started calling her Holiday Girl after meeting her at a Christmas party in Phoenix last year, where he had been booked for a photo shoot. As easygoing and fun-loving as he was, 28-year-old Sam hated the holidays, Christmas in particular. It seemed too commercial, too concentrated on buying expensive gifts and trying to make people happy by spending exorbitant amounts of money. Sam could barely afford to buy anything for anyone and hated to admit that while his simple lifestyle caused him less stress, it left no room for excess spending either. Holiday Girl had brightened his impoverished Christmas by getting great sex from a beautiful older woman whose sex drive was unmatched by any woman his age that he had ever slept with. Married women were especially passionate between the sheets, usually desperate to be touched by someone new, starving to make love to a man with whom they didn't have to share the drudgeries of everyday life. After the holidays ended and the new year began, his mood lifted, so it wouldn't have fazed him at all if Holiday Girl decided to stop seeing him, but she kept flying into Los Angeles every month. Who was he to complain about the best sex of his life flying into town, no expense incurred by him? He was always careful and made sure her visits occurred when his girlfriend Carla was safely out of town and on a photo shoot. He loved Carla and knew that once he was ready to make a commitment to settle down and forsake all others, she would be his wife. Janie's flight from Phoenix to Los Angeles was about an hour. Her usual routine was to fly to Sam's place once a month on a Friday evening immediately after work and return home on Sunday afternoon wearing her invisible cloak of shame that she was convinced Peter and her teenage sons could see. Janie glanced at her small diamond Rolex watch and wondered if she should buy Sam a matching Rolex. She was due to arrive at Los Angeles International Airport in less than 30 minutes. She sipped her scotch. Sam had a lot of pride, so he probably would never accept a lavish gift from her. She stared out the window. From her peripheral vision, she could see a man in the row adjacent to hers who appeared to be in his 60s with sleek silver hair. His tailored business suit was the same color as his hair. Like most men who saw her, his gaze was admiring and filled with hope that she would offer him at least a glance. Janie pretended not to notice him as she wondered if Sam missed her as much as she missed him when they weren't together. It was becoming increasingly hard to remain married to Peter when she was in love with another man. Janie gulped her scotch and instantly felt lightheaded. "Whew," she exclaimed softly and closed her eyes, letting the liquor flow through her brain, through her body, encasing her loins. She suddenly felt aroused. Sam was going to get it good tonight, she thought with a grin. She couldn't wait to feel his lean, young body beside hers, on top of hers, His smell, his touch, his guttural moans were worth the trips to Los Angeles. Janie suddenly realized with finality that while she wanted Peter to have the very best that life had to offer and certainly wished him no harm, she no longer cared about him the way a wife should care about her husband. She hoped her boys would understand that their mom needed to be happy and would respect her decision to share the second half of her life with her one and only true love. She felt the wheels touch down on the runway, but the scotch was dulling her senses, her perception of what was going on around her. Janie wondered why the flight attendants were suddenly racing through the aisles, their once serene faces tense and frightened. Passengers were screaming, crying, cursing, praying as the plane suddenly jolted violently from side to side and increased in speed. The plane is on the runway, so it should be slowing down, Janie thought slowly. The empty glass she held in her hand crashed to the floor. As the fragmented parts of the plane continued to slide out of control at an alarming speed down the runway, the film of her life played clearly through her mind. Janie could see her first date with Peter, their wedding, the lavish honeymoon in Barbados, herself as an expected mom. In her mind's eye, she saw her boys as toddlers taking their first steps, their baby teeth as white as pearls, clapping their hands as they sang nursery rhymes, playing in the front yard, going to school for the very first time. She sobbed as she prayed for her life to be spared, to return to the sanctity of her home, to see her boys again. So what do you think? Do you think that Janie's going to be able to return safely home? Do you think that her life is going to end on this plane? What do you think is going to happen? Well, you must read the book to find out. Thanks for listening. Bye.